day 2 of this clinic. I am off to the clinic. I'm running about 15 minutes later than I would like to be, but I'll still be there essentially on time. I didn't write anything last night, and this morning I was running late, so I couldn't journal. I don't know why I was running late. That's not relevant to the video though. And so my reflections on yesterday, first of all, I was stoked how well yesterday went. I was super relieved to have a horse that can be alone in the barn and doesn't get all invested every time their friends leave. I was like, well, that's nice. That's new, and that's a change. Not that Ducky wasn't like that. Ducky was always like that. My session with her was really good. I did sort of hurry over to the round pen, so I didn't take as much time with that as I should have. That's something I just got to work out on my own. I know why it happened, but it is a bad habit that I need to drop. It's because I feel like I've got to get over there, and I do it at home too. I feel like I got to hurry up and get over there, and then I don't take the time that I need. And at home, it's not as big of a deal in that she's not normally up, but she was up yesterday and kind of bug-eyed. And you know what? I say that, but I think the other thing in there is that because I think my past has said, you know what, yesterday she wasn't being bad. She was just a little bit bug-eyed. So I didn't see, like, my past kind of says, okay, leave it, like, if you're getting to the place you're headed and the horse isn't blowing up, like, everything's fine. And you should not pick at her too much. And I know that now to be that I probably should have helped her more. It's just that I think somewhere subconsciously I'm thinking, okay, well, I shouldn't pick at her too much. I can't be too particular, like in this particular scenario. So that was a learning curve for me, but she did awesome when we turned her loose. She ran around for a few minutes, but not bad actually at all. In fact, a couple of the other horses ran harder. She gave up the gate real quick. Julie helped, so that was nice because I wasn't on my own, but gave up that gate real quick. And she didn't try to smush into it, which was interesting. I was thinking about it later in the day, and she actually seemed like it's almost like because the fence was lower, she didn't push into it, which is not at all what I would have thought would happen. So that went really well, and then we got to work on some things like directing her. Once I got her with me, which took a few minutes, but to get her to stop running around didn't take very much at all. Then I was getting her more and more consistently with me mentally. Was able to direct her around direct her thoughts a little bit. I learned something there about I'm still wanting to, and I didn't even realize this was wrong until yesterday. And then I was like, oh, why have I never realized that before? I still am wanting to come in at her shoulder. I know that I was taught to do it that way previously, and so it wasn't until yesterday that it dawned on me that that's not right. So Wyatt's gonna love that because it pisses Wyatt off when I do that, and he's gonna be really happy that I'm gonna take that home with me. So that was a big learning moment, and I think just yesterday I saw some scaffolding kind of make sense in my brain. It's really cool to have two other horses at the same clinic that are 1 year and 2 years ahead of her, because I've seen those horses go through this whole process, and she's at the beginning, so I can kind of see how all these little things are going to lead into the next little things. So we worked on that. And then we just worked on, asking her to take a bigger step and then maybe getting her to trot a little bit. And I thought to myself, she's so much less resentful of that flag, number one, and number two, of just me asking her to go forward when I'm doing it this way versus I was trying to do it this way before, but there was still there was still more drive in there, and it was annoying to her. She can be a cranky little mare in the wrong hands too, which I think a lot of them get that kind of resentful. She might be obedient enough ultimately and good-natured enough that she probably still wouldn't be too bothered in somebody else's hands, but she's going to be so much better off this way. And I've really had a lot of connections lately about how that affects Wyatt, because I have really, in the last couple years, really realized how he doesn't even really understand how to go around the round pen without being driven, and then I have a habit of doing it because that's a past. I'm so lucky in some ways in terms of my own education that I still have, that I have both horses, because they're so different. I'm really excited to keep working on this with him, because I think that helping him through this spot will help him with a lot of trouble that he feels towards people in general. Wyatt still has a piece of him that doesn't trust people, a big piece of him that doesn't trust people, and I think he has more trust in me than he does in anyone else. But I picked up a lunge whip a couple days ago, and that horse was out of there, and I didn't add, that wasn't coming from me. It wasn't the way I was using it. It was just his previous association with the lunge whip, and I've never chased him with the lunge whip. I know he has been chased in the past, and a couple other people, in fact, I had to stop somebody once in a lesson from chasing him so hard. And I'm like, in retrospect, I knew in my intuition that could really get that horse in a wreck, and now I'm like, ooh, it's a good thing I followed my intuition that day, because he could have gotten himself killed that day. So anyway, just thinking a lot about that difference between driving versus directing. And I'm so glad that I've had this time with the other horses to already have some of those things, so that right now I can be putting all these pieces together for Zoe, so that she has she's going to get such a good shake at it. You know, I'm not going to do it perfect, but she's going to get a lot better shake at it than most horses. And just to see the difference and how much of a difference that made to her was really, really cool for me. So I feel really good. And then I was like, oh, that's going to be the Canada part one day, and she's not going to feel so crappy about it. And once I get all that working pretty good and the leading and stuff, then I'm going to be able to ring rope her. And if she already feels pretty good about the transition, the ring rope isn't going to be as big of a deal. Like, all these things are going to lead to other stuff. So I felt like I had a lot of little moments that are hard to explain, but that really filled in some scaffolding too. I thought yesterday was an awesome day. All the horses did great, and I'm so stoked that I have this. I mean, you couldn't ask that horse to have given more, or to have been any better than she was yesterday. That for a 1.5-year-old, honestly, for an adult horse, she would have been a little star too. One day that's going to be a horse. It almost makes me want to cry. Glad I'm making this video before I go to morning meeting, because that's going to be the horse that's like that I'm going to be able to do all this really fun liberty work with that I used to be able to do with Ducky. There's going to be a point down the road where that horse I could turn her out and she's going to stick right with me, and she's going to be able to walk, trot, and canter both directions around me and stay with me. And she's going to be a horse that I can ride bridleless. She's going to be that horse. It's not going to be next week, but she's going to be that horse one day, because she has that inside of her. And that's pretty special. I think the other thing that I was reflecting on yesterday, it's a good thing I'm talking about this, because I got some tears in my eyes. The other thing I was sitting there thinking about afterward was how sad it makes me that other horses don't get to go through this, because it's gonna make me cry, because they all carry around their baggage for the shit that people did to them, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I have a horse that people have been very unkind to, and unfortunately I allowed him to be in some situations where it wasn't working for him. Now, I don't know that I was doing the absolute best that I could have. And I think even then at that point, it was probably too late, but it doesn't excuse the way that he felt that whole time. I'm glad that I never gave up. But I have a horse that people really wrecked the inside of him. And I see horses every day where people are hurting them. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I wish for Wyatt that he hadn't had those experiences. But I am glad that he is in a place now where he's not going to have those experiences ever again in his rest of his life happy without somebody scaring him all the time.